entirety. And I think Doug met with the same group that following Friday. After listening to the meeting, going to the meetings, and I've gotten about 60 responses, comments from the constituents, and I know how they feel about it. They sent some pictures in, which was just unreal. So I've got all that information. What we're going to do to that is that every one of those constituents will be responded to. Rosie's helping me do that. We'll get the email address off of each one of those emails that I've already printed out, give them to Rosie, and we will respond to each and every one of those persons who emailed me. I imagine I got most of the emails that you got, or maybe a little bit more, so they will be responding to them and let they know that. Having been in that very first meeting, which wasn't that productive, and there was just a general conversation going on in the meeting we had just before the public hearing, I felt that one meeting is not going to be conducive to everybody's concern. So I got with Doug and planning, and I proposed that we have a series of meetings. As a matter of fact, we're going to have, as it stands now, 3 meetings. And I'll have to get the dates and so we can wrap it around everybody's schedule. But as it stands now, we're going to have 3 meetings, but I want to get this approved where we can track all 3 of them at the same time, because there's a lot of confusion going on among the residents and some of the developers between 770 and 771. So that's why I decided, let's track them all together. And that way we can get everybody on the same page. And when the dates of those meetings, we find out what date they're going to be, then we'll put that out so everybody that wants to be there can be there. And that's the initial plan that calls following the deferral. So I want you to know that. Okay, having said that, we got one other person in the queue, and that would be Councilman Holloman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question may get addressed in the meetings, but Bob, I am a little curious. I thought the duplex bill was, I guess, had a little more consensus than the others. Is that, am I wrong about that, or what still remains on the duplex bill?
You can ask Councilman Hunt, may be able to answer that as well, because I know he's been talking with folks. But okay. That's my understanding also, is that it's a little bit, it's in a place where I think more people are willing to accept that one with an amendment or 2, and we're ready to amend certain parts of it dealing with height and the driveways. When they have a driveway on an alley, I think that's one issue, how wide it could be when a driveway is on an alley. And I think
when you say height, you don't mean the proportionality ratio, do you?
I think it's where it's measured from. I mean, how you measure it from grade.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue that we've looked at, and we have an amendment that's ready to go, but we're also still listening to folks if they have any other ideas, because we heard something last week that made sense that we are looking to amend in terms of the driveways along alleys. And so, but I think you're right. I think that one is in a place where it may be a little farther along.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and to add to that, in the emails that we're getting, I can tell you now, there is some work to be done between the height and the square footage. One of the things that's got people upset is the fact that they got some of those units sitting on 7, 8 foot foundations. And I think that's one of the amendments that they're working on now to try to get that down, and ask them to do some evaluate, a little bit more digging so that they can get it down. The last time I looked at it and had a conversation with Gary, it was trying to look at a 4 foot maximum.
Foundation.
Okay. Rather than say you set a building on top of an 8 foot foundation, you know, almost invalidating the height of that.
Yeah, defeat the purpose of the proportionality. Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. So 77 is no further along. It's got some serious problem with it too.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, we have Councilman Councilman Dedney? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to again say that I think we should try to accommodate doing two-story houses. I mean, that we shouldn't limit the ability of people to a second floor to the houses, and that we should try to work out how we're going to make it happen. But we shouldn't really limit that from happening, because in my many years of experience, to say that this is something that the developers want, it's misguided, because in reality developers work for the market, and the people want to have a second floor where they can have privacy and they can have their bedrooms, and they have a place in the house where they can be separated from the more public first floor space. So I just want to make sure that we try to work on making sure that we get that second floor.
Thank you, and all of that's gonna be brought up in those 3 meetings that we'll have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Just so we don't have to bring it up during 770, since Councilman Holloman brought it up, I think that's a good idea with the duplex bill. I think we're really, really close on that, and I can definitely support once we work out the foundation height, and appreciate you working on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You have another, Councilman Holman? Anything else?
And just 1 second, Mr. Chairman, I know you're trying to move along, but to Councilman Bentley, were you referring to the contextual overlay, or were you referring to the duplex bill? You gotta push your button, I think.
Okay, yeah.
I first brought that up with the duplex legislation, but I think it would be appropriate with any legislation that tries to hinder the ability of having two-story on a house.
And I just want to make a comment on that, because I think as this moves along, the reason I wanted to respond now is because I think it's, to me, an important piece of this duplex bill, that you still have the option to do a 2 or 3 story building. We're only asking you to go to, honestly, probably no less than 1.5 story if you were going to separate out the units. If you're going to keep the units fully contiguous so that it reads like a one structure, you can make it larger. The idea, I think, is that we're getting, at least in my neighborhood, and I think in East Nashville, I know in Councilman Baker's district, a lot of what they call the tall, skinny houses. And I just think it's important that we include in dialogue. This is just an option. It's an option of the developer, which is if they want to separate the units and have them to be freestanding units, then we're asking that they be proportional. And again, they could be tall if they have the land area, but the issue is, at least in my district, is that they're trying to put 2 units where frankly it was originally platted for 1 unit and really designed for 1 unit. And that's the only place where I think you would see that happen. And they do have an alternative, which I guess is the point I'm trying to bring out.
So if homeowners decide to limit themselves and put some kind of a restriction, I'm nobody to tell a homeowner what type of restriction they want to put on their own property. So I wasn't speaking to that. I'm speaking to do a blanket legislation that will limit in general what people can do. Am I making sense?
You're talking about the contextual overlay district.
Like if somebody signs up into a historic district, or, I mean, if you get a community that comes around and decides that that's what they want to do, that's not my place to tell them what to do, that's their own property. But I'm just talking about in general, if we decide to create a legislation that would apply to the whole city, limiting where they could perhaps build a second floor, that's where I would have a problem.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments? Okay. Do we have a motion? Second? Got a motion and second, any further comments? All in favor? Okay. 771 is approved.